right, we're now at our second location along the Daniel Boone Heritage Trail, and I'm here where a very epic event happened. And who better to tell the story than Mr. Daniel Boone himself? Can you tell us what happened, Daniel?
Sure, follow me, come here. Where we're standing right here today is one of the most historically documented events in American frontier history. We're at the very site where the two Callaway girls and Daniel Boone's daughter, Jemima, were captured in a canoe. Now here's what history tells us about that event. It was July, and everybody that told the story about this event, it was unusually hot that July. There's even history, and I don't know if it's folklore that tells this, but one of them had a thorn that had been in their foot. And they got in this canoe and they come across the riverbank, and they got over what we now know to be the Clark County, Kentucky side of the river. They got too close to this bank here, and a war party of about 5 Shawnee Indians literally snatched these 3 girls out of this canoe right here where we're standing. You today can come down this heritage trail and see the monument, the sign, the historical marker that shows and tells you exactly where we're standing here today. So these girls are captured right here by these Shawnees. The alarm goes out that these 3 girls have been captured. They're notified at the fort, and they just immediately get together a party consistent of Daniel Boone himself, and they start up this heritage trail that we're showing you today in the pursuit of trying to stop this kidnapping, if you will, of these 3 girls. It takes them 2 days, and it's only on the second day of the evening that they end up capturing and getting back up with this war party. And it's dusk, the sun's just now starting to set, and they capture these 3 girls back.
And we are live. We are live. What's up, everybody? This is Colonel Carson here with Colonel Daniel Boone. Daniel Boone, you heard that right. We've got Daniel Boone with us here tonight.
Hey, Colonel Carson, how are you this evening?
Doing awesome, doing awesome. I'm so looking forward to this show tonight. We've got lots of people tuning in, and they're real eager to learn about you and what you do and all that kind of stuff.
Man, we're happy to be here. How long we known each other now, Russ? We met each other last year, I think, doing tourism video TV commercials, didn't we?
Yeah, right there. That's one of those clips we just saw right there. So
yeah, we shot that down the Kentucky River right across from the original fort site there in, well, we were on the Clark County side there, weren't we, at Boonesboro?
Yeah, right there where they captured Jemima and the Callaway girls.
Yeah.
So
I'm really excited to meet all your viewers tonight. We've been following your Facebook page now this past year. Frankly, I watch all your videos. They're awesome, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Some of them are you're in there. Are those your favorite?
You know, honestly, I get a lot of people, Russ, over the years. I've been doing Boone for a living for over 15 years now, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on your live broadcast tonight, but you've done some of the best stuff that we've ever had video. We've done a lot of magazines and, photography for tourism all over the United States. But I just like the idea that you're across the river there from me and that we can grab a bite to eat for lunch. And I just like your style of doing stuff. So hey, congratulations, man. Your page is blowing up. I mean, you have just added thousands and thousands lately, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. We've been blessed. It's people see that it's a passion what we're doing over here, a passion to preserve history.
Yeah, people love living history, and my hat's off to you. You're like me. You're self-taught, and you're pretty knowledgeable. I invited actually for my members of Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP group to your page, and I think you got a bunch of those people, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely appreciate that for sure. Yeah, man, absolutely. Before I forget, make sure I see a lot of comments coming in here. Don Smith said he's free to explore anytime with you, Colonel Boone. And Chris says he's in Arkansas. And Chris says, hey, friends, I see Jada's watching. Jada says, hey. So
Jada Brady ran for state house representative here in Clark County, and we did a lot of filming commercials for her. Jada's on there live right now.
Yeah, she's watching.
That's good. Yeah. Hi, Jada. Hi, Jada. Good to see you.
Matt Harbarger says, "Let's go." Yeah, man, absolutely. Mary Perry Sword says, "Hello, Uncle Daniel." She said, "I'm your niece." So,
hey, let me for your viewers, most of the people on my page know this, so we'll set the stage here real quick. My name's Steven Caudill, but I'm a direct descendant of Daniel Boone. My grandfather, Matthew Caudill, married Sarah Webb. And Sarah Webb was Daniel Boone's brother Squire's granddaughter. So I'm a direct descendant of Boone, and I just developed a company. I'm retired from the government, and 15 years ago, I started a company called Daniel Boone of Kentucky. And wow, 15 years later, I'm traveling America, doing films and documentaries, and I own a huge Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP group on Facebook. And because of the way the world is now, this is the way people are doing life right now, you know. Yeah. And so they flood these live broadcasts, and frankly, because it's interesting, you know.
Absolutely. And yeah, don't forget to check out Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP Facebook group too, right? Said tonight.
Yeah, it's a closed group, Russ, because we want like-minded people on there that like me and you and your customers and people that follow your site. And so they just go to Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP group, and then they'll just send a friend request. There you go. I got that centered up. Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP group, and you can buy products on there. I mean, like we had a huge sale tonight. And like we sell the eyewear like I'm wearing tonight. We're doing a big special on those. And so we'll accept their friend request. And the reason we keep it locked like that, Russ, is we just want a lot, you know, like-minded people in there. We don't want a lot of spam. It's a family show, you know, so
right.
A lot like yours. We just sort of try to control who's getting in there and keeping the crazies out, you know.
So yeah, absolutely.
We just get a lot of crazy.
Yeah, I would say before I forget, let us know where you guys are watching from too. And if you have any questions, make sure you in the comments there, ask any questions or comments that you'd like to. This is the best part about these live shows is you get to join in, and I can ask Colonel Boone whatever questions you might have or comments, and let us know where you're watching from too. So we really appreciate that. So lots of people are commenting.
You know, we've been getting a lot of customers. A lot of viewers out west. I mean, like last night, our live feed on Daniel Boone VIP group was like Iowa, Nebraska, Los Angeles, Washington State. It's crazy how much interest they have on the West Coast for American frontier history out here in colonial America. I love that, don't you?
Well, yeah, because people don't realize, you know, here in Kentucky is a hotbed of genealogy, you know, because you know, I've said it so many times, about 300,000 of our ancestors passed through here, and over 50 million Americans are descended from those people that passed right through here in Kentucky. So all thanks to your efforts, Colonel Boone. Where's your coonskin cap?
Yeah. I've spent 15 years of my life trying to dispel the facts and myths of Daniel Boone, and that tells your audience, if everybody thinks Colonel Boone would have come on a broadcast like this, he'd been dressed with a dead animal on his head, but that's to the contrary. He said he never cared for that because he said the Native Americans wore a lot of that type headdresses. This is the way he would have been dressed if he would have been, especially in front of a bunch of important people like we are tonight, you know. So maybe just a little bit formal, you know, but we know he was a colonel in the Kentucky militia, so this would have been a regimental. He would have been dressed like this tonight. So
absolutely, and you know, also too. So the people that are watching, you literally for the last. This is your job. This is what you do. Yeah. You are world famous, the nation's most renowned Daniel Boone impersonator, have performed as Daniel Boone all over the country and basically run a circuit and things like that. you give speeches, you portray Daniel Boone at reenactments and things like that. So I just wanted to get that out there because we keep calling you Boone and making sure that people know exactly what you do.
We do, Russ. I mean, we do living history events all over the country, like at historical forts and stuff, but that's just a fraction of what I do. I mean, I speak at a lot of churches because we know Boone when he was up in where he came from, up in Pennsylvania before he came through North Carolina, through the Cumberland Gap that you earlier spoke of, into what was Virginia then, that later came to Kentucky. You know, he was a man of great faith. They left the Quaker faith up in Pennsylvania. They converted to a more what we now know to be, you know, Christianity. And he was a devout man of faith. And so I speak at a lot of churches about Boone's faith and in a lot of men's group. But I speak at a lot of historical museums, and I do a lot of appearances at different venues just all over the country. That's actually what I do is it's easy to say this. And I was telling you this the other day, when I first started doing Daniel Boone 15 years ago, there was a guy named Mel Henkel in this industry, and he did Simon Kenton, and he's been doing it for like 25 years. He's the master of what we call first person. And he said, man, he said, you can do this. He said, you know, you're a direct descendant of Boone. You look like Boone. You're the same height, body-wise, you know, body size, hair color. You know, I don't wear, Boone had no facial hair. I wear a ponytail just like Boone would have, you know, long auburn hair, you know. And he said, there's like 400 people in America do Abraham Lincoln. 300 of them are terrible at it, but 100 of them look just like him. But nobody, but you know, nobody does Daniel Boone. And so there I was. I had the whole United States of doing Boone, you know, and we got to the point we had to turn down shows and speaking engagements. We just couldn't go everywhere, you know. And that's sort of the short version of what we've been doing for 15 years.
Yeah, let's show them clip number 1, and that's a good example. It's a clip that you and I did together. There, you're standing right in the middle of where the original site of Fort Boonesboro was. So let's show, Jordan. If you show clip number 1, that'll show some folks kind of what you do.
Yeah, historically speaking, a lot of people say this is sacred hollow ground. When Daniel Boone first got his first glimpse from Pilot Knob of where this hollow place would end up being called Fort Boonesboro, he came from this direction down Otter Creek behind me. In the year 1775, he would establish this as one of the first forts of the western frontier. At that time, this was a vast wilderness inhabited by the Shawnee Nation. Very few to none people had established a place like this to build a fort, but it was on this very site, within the perimeter of where I stand this morning. This is not a grave per se, but this is a monument erected by the DER in honor to all those tens of thousands of people that would end up coming through Virginia, later to be known as Kentucky, to make this their home. The sacrifices to establish this fort here at Fort Boonesboro, and the blood that was shed and the sacrifices made were horrendous for these people to make this place they call their home. Daniel Boone lost 2 children. He lost James coming through here on one of his first trips here at Boonesboro, and he ends up losing his other child, Israel, at the Battle of Blue Licks. What you're seeing here is what some people would say is the very end, but the story just begins here. The Heritage Trail, Daniel Boone Trail, leads down this river, full and rich of heritage and huge significant events that occurred in Americans' history right here on this hollow ground that we stand here today.
Yeah, that's a great example of it right there. That's a really good video.
that's what we do. You know, and you filmed that clip there, and you know, that you can use that for interpretive signs at historical sites and tourism, and people love traveling. I mean, historical sites are just so visited across America, especially out here like you and I were talking about on the East Coast. This is where America began. I mean, it's
Oh,
where it
yeah.
all started. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. And so that's a little example. Darla says Daniel Boone had red hair. I did not know. Is this true? She said.
yeah, his hair was all, well, he was referred to in journals that he had an auburn hair color. And so, yeah, I mean, my hair, I'm 58 years old in real life. And of course, he was white-headed when he died at 85 years old. But, you know, Boone was a quiet man. You know what, let me tell you this too, Russ. A lot of people, this is how I explain it when I do a show. Daniel Boone and Rebecca had 10 kids. Okay, he was married to his beloved sweetheart, Rebecca Boone, their whole life. Rebecca died 16 years before Daniel died. They had left Kentucky, went out to Missouri, which you were just recently out there at his son's house where he was buried.
Yeah.
And out of the 10 kids that they had, 2 of them were killed during Indian attacks. James, 16 years old, coming through the Cumberland Gap, and Israel was killed at the Battle of Blue Licks. But out of the 7 or the 8 children, there's 67 grandkids.
Wow.
So out of the 67 grandkids, that's where we all fit in 6 generations later. So, you know.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing that time period. Jenny Wiley is my 7th great grandmother, and they say it's estimated that 30,000 of us are descended from her. So somebody in that time period, you know.
We're all over the world. I mean, literally all over the world. I mean, you got to remember, Daniel's parents came from the old country. You know, they came here on the ship. They settled up in Pennsylvania, later went down to North Carolina before they came through the Gap. And I think you made reference to that earlier. When you look at the Cumberland Gap up there, that monument says, what, 300,000 souls came through what they call it the Warriors Pass, the dark and bloody ground of Kentucky. The only people that lived out there was the Buffalo and the Shawnee Nation, you know. And so these people came there and established, you know, forts as early as, what, 1774. You know, a lot of people think, Russ, that Boone was the first one to come through there, but he wasn't. Dr. Thomas Walker came through 20 years before Boone did, you know. So think about that. That's back during the French and Indian War almost.
Yeah, 1750. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 1750. Yeah. So
it's amazing to think about. Those guys had, you know, that's true freedom.
Oh, yeah.
Just true absolute freedom.
The sacrifice that they made. I mean, Boone himself loses 2 children by savages that, you know, that were mutilated on those trails. And, you know, they were looking for the same thing that we are today, though. They were looking for the freedom of religion, the place to call home, and a piece of property, you know. And that the area that you and I live here in central Kentucky, there ain't a field, a cornfield, a tobacco field, or a backyard that Daniel Boone and his family didn't want to. I mean, he was all up and down through here because they were going over to the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I say it amazes me to think about when you know the stories that they went from here to here, you know, where his brother Ned was killed, you know, way out there in Bourbon County. I mean, the drive there between Boonesboro and where Ned was killed is an hour drive, you know, but they were way over there, you know, and as mobile as they were and as quick as they were to get through. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's a tragic story. Him and his brother Ned are over there hunting, and the reason they went up to the Blue Licks is because that's where, you know, the buffalo roamed by the hundreds of thousands there because there was salt springs there, and they were boiling hundreds of gallons of water for salt because winter was coming on, and they needed that salt. You know, they'd have to boil several hundred gallons of water to get, you know, a bushel of salt to cure their meat for the winter. You know, their elk and their bear and deer, and of course, you and I both know, and everybody, most of your people watching tonight know, by the Civil War, most of those buffalo by the thousands had been killed out. They were gone, you know. I mean, when was it, Russ? They've just introduced the elk back to Kentucky, what, less than 10 years ago, ain't they?
Yeah, yeah. It's something to see out there too. So you get lucky too. You know, that's when you came there with the Axemen there on April 1st of 1775 to the site there, that they said that there was at least 200 buffalo just right there at the ford. They said you could walk from back to back across the river there. So
and Boone once said that a man could walk across the top of the treetops and never touch the ground in Kentucky. But then when they started to build the forts and lumber industry, and then of course the railroads came, all of our forest was gone. I mean, of course, I'm a big backpacker, you're aware of that, Russ, but when the only wilderness left now is the Daniel Boone National Forest and the big South Fork down into Tennessee. I mean, that's a wilderness. I backpacked all the way to Tennessee in 2019, 333 miles. And man, that's still a wilderness down in there, full of snakes,
no
snakes and bear. And, that was an epic trip. And I did it with modern backpacking gear. I didn't do that in moccasins,
Right. Yeah, no, unbelievable. So, you're doing Daniel Boone. You're traveling around as Daniel Boone. You said you went one time, and I guess you said you saw someone doing Simon Kenton. When did you know that you wanted to do what you're doing? Is this something when you were a boy? Is this something coming up, or is something later on in life? When did you know that you wanted to do this, what you do?
Well, it was sort of in this sequence, real briefly. My father, Bob Caudill, I killed my first deer with a flintlock rifle when I was 14 years old. That was the way I was raised. I hunted with muzzleloader and a longbow, and then so I was brought up in that way. And then as I grew up, I went to college. I had a career as a police officer. I'm a retired police detective for 23 years, and it's like everybody, Russ. I started studying and becoming a student of history later on in life. Wanted to know who my people were. And so I met a girl at church, the same last name as mine, Caudill, that said she had done our lineage. And she asked me if my sixth grandfather was Matthew Caudill, and said, you're married into the Boone family. And so I'll tell you when it happened. When it had to happen when the Simon Kenton thing happened. I spoke at Locust Grove Historical Site up there in Louisville, Kentucky, and I mean, this guy's the master of it that does Simon Kenton. I mean, he's been doing it for 25 years, and he said, "My goodness, son," he said, "you look like Boone, you talk like Boone, you're a student of Boone, you're going to do well at this."
Yeah,
and I mean, it was the greatest accolade, Russ, I'd ever had in my life. So I spoke at a couple of places, and they wanted to give me a gift card, like to a country restaurant. And I thought, man, this is great. I'll do it again. And now I've developed this company, Daniel Boone of Kentucky Corporation. And, we're sought after on the speaking circuit, just literally all over the country. I had a school out in Los Angeles, California, that was teaching the arts, wanted me to come out there and do a grand opening in LA a couple of years ago, and was going to fly me out there, and my schedule wouldn't allow me to do it. But I'm thinking, this is crazy. I'm going to fly to Los Angeles to do a ribbon cutting at a theatrical arts studio as Daniel Boone. And then I've done, you wouldn't believe the stuff we sell to people like that are first person at Disney World. I mean, we sell a ton of stuff off our Daniel Boone page to people that are actors at Disney World. Might not be, historical like what you and I do, but they're doing the characters down there, and they buy stuff from us. It's crazy,
really cool. Yeah, absolutely. Michael Bush says he went to school with Caudill's there in Wheelersburg, Ohio. Michael Bush is related to everybody. Everybody that we talk about on here, he's
is he really?
I want to do a video with him, and where we cover all of the famous people that he's related to. It's really cool.
We do that, man. We do.
Yeah, and What? You said accolades and things like that. Why don't we skip clip 2 for now? But let's talk about one of your accolades. You were invited to speak to the Kentucky Senate.
Oh yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
So that's an incredible thing. We've got the clip here. Can we show it?
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, what a great honor this is for me today. Ms. Mayfield contacted me back in January, and I was in Florida doing shows, and I don't want to tell you that I was putting her off, but I just didn't want to come back to this cold weather because we go to, like so many of us, go to Florida in the winter, and then we come back in the spring. But I think a lot of Miss Mayfield, she's been a family friend of my family over in Winchester for many years, and because of my great deal of respect for her, I told her I'd come and give you about 3 or 4 minutes as Daniel Boone. And even though I was reluctant, she said, "Now it's important, Steve. You've done so much for the Commonwealth, and you've represented us well all over this nation, from New York to California to Florida." And she said, "Besides, we've had Turtle Man speak and everything." And I thought, well, there you go. Then I need to come. I'll take up about 4 minutes of your time. I am Daniel Boone, Colonel of the Kentucky Militia. I was elected 3 terms as the House of Representatives for the state of Virginia before this great Commonwealth became a state. My dear countrymen, like in my day, we now live in, this country is a country of uncertainty today. We are embarking upon an expedition was full of hardship and dangers, and this American colonies, our motherland, stand in jeopardy. Until united we stand, united we fall, taxation without representation will destroy us. In my pursuit to settle Kentucky has come with a great price. 2 darling sons and a brother I have lost to the hand of the Shawnee. My footsteps have often been marked in blood. Many a nights I have spent alone in the wilderness, the companion of owls. Reflecting for a moment, if you will, when I first viewed Kentucky after a long, fatiguing march in a westward movement, we arrived on its borders from atop a great eminence. With joy and wonder, we saw this beautiful landscape of Kentucky. I found it too far to exceed my expectations. It was a land to behold like no man had ever seen before. I tell you the truth that the buffalo and the elk roam by the thousands of this great land. I'm very often asked in all my adventures if I've ever been lost. No, just turned around for a few days. I once said all a man really needs to be happy in this great state of Kentucky is a good horse, a good rifle, and a good wife. Listen to me this day. I realize you, the ladies and gentlemen of this great hall, are ordinary people elected by the people, for the people, that expect extraordinary efforts on your part. As leaders who are working together for a common goal, my friend General George Washington once said, "Strive not with your superiors in argument, but always submit yourself in judgment with great humility." Like you, the people in which we serve as leaders look at us for direction in their pursuit for a few basic necessities in their lives. Like me, they're looking for a place to settle in this promised land of Kentucky, a place to call home, and the freedom to worship our God as we choose to. And if need be, we, united of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, will stand together to defend our liberty. I challenge you this day. This great Commonwealth needs great leaders, integrity with high morals. Our youth need role models to look up to, and our wives and children need us as men to step up and to fully become everything that God has created us to be. Let me say this in closing, ladies and gentlemen. In the days that we are currently living in, as I travel the American colonies, I'm asked this very much often as a leader of this great state. Colonel Boone, what answers and what advice do you have to this country's dilemma? My answer is always the same. I don't. But I know one who does. And because here's what he says, his word is written, his holy word is embedded and should be embedded in every man and woman that represents this Commonwealth's heart. Until my people, which are called by name, shall humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and forgive them of their sins and heal their land of this great commonwealth of Kentucky. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Colonel Daniel Boone, and what a great honor and a privilege it's been to stand before this house and my constituents on this day. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Wow.
That was awesome, wasn't it?
Man, I hadn't watched that in a long time, Russ. That was 5 years ago, and wow.
Yeah.
I gave that. That's how serious this is. I mean, we have a lot of fun, Russ, but here I was given that platform to say whatever I felt like I wanted to say, and I wrote that. And look where we are as a nation, and that's just as prevalent as it is today as it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. How things were very similar. In Boone's days, they are today. And things that they faced. And I'm glad you said that. You said that this how serious this is, because this isn't a game. This is not playing dress up. This is not goofing off. This is what we do at Family Tree Nuts is flat out, unadulterated, raw passion for preserving the history and preserving people's ancestors, and to get the story out there. It's real. It's something that who we are, and it becomes in your soul to get it out there. And you can't do what you do without feeling like that, and talk about that a minute. Why? I mean, this is not just something that you're doing for fun. This is a mission and a calling for you. Tell us all about that.
I just thought about this when you were saying what you were saying, that we live in a world right now where young people are screaming for real role models. We look at ourselves of our hurts, our habits, and our hangups, and not just my life, but your life and our audience that's watching us tonight. And you look back, because history, Russ, always repeats itself. You can learn who, when I talk to the House of Representatives there and all those senators there, that, if history repeats itself, there's genetics in all of us, and your genealogy in the study of what we do is that you can't get away of who your granddaddy was and your great-great-grandfather was, both spiritually, physically, and emotionally. It just amazes me that some of the things that I see my grandparents struggled with 100 years ago, I've struggled with in real life. Not to get, real personal here, but, now the older I get, and you and I've talked about this privately, we change, we grow up, we make decisions in life. I mean, for me to stand before that Senate and challenge man to fully, create, be everything God as they understand them, not how you and I understand them, but there comes a day of reckoning with each and every one of us. And like Boone, when Boone, right before he dies out there in Missouri, where you were out there visiting his son's house, they said, oh, Daniel Boone. Now, a lot of your viewers, our average viewer is between, I think it's 46 and 58 years old, right in there. We got an older audience that love the history part. And I'm sure your stats show the same thing. But Boone is getting ready to die. And they have a wake out there, I mean, they take him, he dies, and right before he does, he wants his hair taken down and he wants his dead ends cut, and they brush his teeth, and they gather around and they sing a couple of hymnals, and they had a wake like my grandparents did. They put him on the kitchen table and they wrapped him in linen, and cleaned him up before they bury him in Rebecca. Of course, you don't want to bring that up out there because we know in 1840, I know you're laughing already, but in 1840, they dug him up, him and Rebecca's skeleton remains, and brought them back, had a big, huge funeral. The term rolling over in your grave? I think that's because Boone swore never to come back here. And so when you go out to Missouri, they'll tell you that he's still buried there, and they dug up 2 slaves and sent those skeleton remains back to Kentucky. So, the question comes up, well, with DNA being the way it is, Russ, why don't we dig them up and find out where they're really at? Well, you don't go messing with the past, because
right.
You and I
don't know where he's buried. I think he's buried in both.
Hey, hang on a minute. I'm not promoting this guy because I haven't talked to him for years, but this was on the New York. I just thought about it, but it's on the subject. This is a guy named Andrew Carroll, wrote this book called Who is Where? Who is Where? Discovering America's Great Forgotten History. This is on the New York best-selling list. He interviewed me in this book about where I think Daniel Boone's really buried. But guess what? This book is full of people that aren't buried where they originally thought people were. And there's a lot of people in history that you and I talk about on our shows that aren't where they were, like let's take George Rogers Clark, for example, General Clark. He's not up there at Locust Grove. There's a monument there, but he's buried over in Indiana. And I mean, he was one of the greatest war generals of our time. And they got a monument out there behind the house, but he's not buried there. So don't listen. I own this company, and I got to be politically correct. And I represent the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and I'm not going to get in that debate. Do I think Boone's really at Boonesburg or at Frankfort, Kentucky? But off the record, I'll tell you that's where I think he's at.
That's where. Well, they came up with a public statement there, I think in 2010, and said that some of his bones were moved, but his heart and his mind were still in Missouri. But I like that there's a controversy there because it gets more folks caring. It gets more folks talking about it. And, since you said that, there's a lot of people that believe that we did a show, Jameson and I from the Kentucky History Podcast. We did a show one time, Hero or Poser, Daniel Boone. There's a lot of people that think Daniel Boone gets a lot of credit he doesn't deserve. That there was he didn't do anything really special kind of thing. What do you say to those people?
Yeah, I mean, there's those critics out there, like I'm not being critical of Daniel Boone because I'm a direct descendant of him, but, let me say it this way, Russ. Unless you're a student of Boone, and I mean, if you look off to my left right here, I have every Boone book ever written, and I've read them all a dozen times. I've read the Draper manuscript. The Draper manuscripts are firsthand documentation from Shane Draper about Boone. But the fact is, like I told you earlier in this broadcast, Boone gets the credit by people saying, he's the first person to discover Kentucky. Well, that's farthest from the truth. I mean, Dr. Thomas Walker came through here 40 years before Boone did. But here's the truth, Russ, and I was hoping I'd have an opportunity to say this in this broadcast. You were talking about the coonskin hat earlier. People are not students of Daniel Boone. They don't have a clue about him. They think he was some, you talk about rolling over in his grave. They have a picture of his image on his grave up in Frankfort that shows him fighting an Indian with his flintlock rifle, like slapping at him. And, before Boone dies out there in Missouri, he said he only killed three men in his life. And he regretted it horribly, but he said they were madmen in the woods that left him no other choice. So, Boone was very, and that's a whole nother show you and I can do. And I do this show for a lot of churches, Russ. Boone was a man of great faith. And I promise you this, Russ, Boone was not so well reverent by the natives because he was some mighty great hunter. He was a man of faith, and the word was with him, and he was a man of the word that carried the word of a God that they knew of, that they called Yahweh. And don't think those Native Americans didn't know who the creator was. Boone, if you want to technically say it, and nobody gives him credit, this would have been maybe one of your first missionaries. He bridged the gap between the creator and the creation. He knew who they were because Boone carried 2 books with him everywhere he went in the woods. And a lot of people saw this. 1 was Gulliver Travels, and 2 was the Holy Scriptures, the Word of God. And so, you know, can I paraphrase for just a minute? You know, you and I know he got captured up there and went to Chillicothe up in Ohio when he gets captured by Blackfish, and it's pronounced Chingoa in Shawnee, Blackfish. That's how you say it. You know, they killed every other man they caught up there, or made them run the gauntlet, or scalped them, or whatever they did. Well, they didn't kill Boone. What does he do? He adopts him into their nation, and he calls him my son. He calls him Big Turtle. Shiltoe is how you say it in Shawnee. So I'm picturing, you know, the medicine man, they're sitting around, they're running through the gauntlet, and they said, you know, and I'm going to paraphrase this for a minute. If we kill this guy, we're going to bring reproach upon him, on us, because this man has a book of the spoken word of the creator, of the creation of all things. You see how serious this is?
Yeah.
And I've spoke about that at, you know, theologically at some big students of scriptures, and they say that's plausible, that's believable. You know, because nobody wants to talk about that. They want to talk about him being an Indian killer, and he was farthest from the truth, Russ.
Yeah, he was with them. He, you know, kind of thing. There was a lot of people think that he wanted to be with them, you know, and he was tried
Sure.
for treason for joining the other team, even, you know, right before
I mean, the Callaways tried him for treason, high treason, because they you know, they didn't understand why. Well, look, all the salt makers got kidnapped and took back to Chillicothe, Ohio, and Boone's the only one that comes back. You know, and they thought he was a traitor. You know, so
yeah. I heard a great story. A man named Rick Allen told me. He said, no matter how flat the pancake is, there's always 2 sides to it, you know. So there's always 2 sides to history, for sure.
That's the truth, man. That's the truth. Yeah.
Hey, let's show clip number 2. And this is another example of some stuff you do. Can we show clip number 2?
Now we're at Boone Station, where Daniel Boone moved in 1779 with members of his family. Daniel, can you tell us the story?
Sure, I'd love to. I think what's so historical significantly here at Boone Station is with the day that he arrived here. It was Christmas Day, December the 25th of 79, and it's one of the most recorded coldest days in the history of Kentucky, they said. It just was horrifically cold. So Boone and several families walked across this frozen Kentucky River here to now what we know to be in Fayette County as Boone Station. But another thing that's so significant about this, that winter he builds a half-face shelter, and they winter it out, the winter of 79, coldest winter in recorded history of Kentucky. Let's go ahead to the year 1782 is the Battle of Blue Licks. And what happens, his second son, Israel, is killed during what some say was one of the most bloodiest battles of the American Revolutionary War. What ended up being the end of the American Revolutionary War. Boone gets back and recovers his child Israel's body at that battle and brings him back to where we're standing today. And this monument right here is where Israel Boone, Daniel Boone's son, is buried right here.
Wow, that's a really neat story.
Hey, you know, Russ, that's something real important. I didn't know you were going to show that clip, but did you, you know, if you're the people watching tonight picked up on that. It was Christmas Day, 1779, coldest day in Kentucky history. They said the elk froze in the fields. You know, the turkeys didn't come off the roost that morning. It was so cold. But Daniel Boone had just got back from being captured. The siege of Boonesboro just happens. 300 warriors from the Shawnee Nation and a bunch of mercenaries, Canadians, come down. They attack Boonesboro for 9 days. Boone ends up getting court-martialed, called, a traitor. His wife, Rebecca, is up in arms. She said, I'm not going to be treated this way. We've lost 2 children. We're leaving here. He gets court-martialed. He walks across the frozen Kentucky River on Christmas Day, and he never goes back. Never. Yeah. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's why he ended up leaving and he goes to Missouri. Well, in part, that's maybe true, but guess what? It's 20 years later.
Yeah.
He didn't immediately go to Missouri that year in 1779. It was like, what was it? I mean, you were just out there. 20 years later, he goes out there to his son's house.
Right.
And that was because he got a land grant from the Louisiana Purchase out there, and they welcomed him. He was a hero out there on the Western frontier, But
it's kind of underappreciated. People love to see people fall. People love to see people fall, or love to. It gives them power to criticize those that do things like that. But
I don't want to interrupt you, but I just used this saying today. Somebody asked me why somebody had said something that was hurtful. Russ, what you just said, hurt people hurt others. Let me say it again. Hurt people hurt others.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. When Daniel Boone, what he had went through to establish Boonesboro as his home, and he lost some children, Rebecca thinks he's dead, because when he's in captivity, she was convinced that her husband had been killed up there. So she goes back she went home for like a year. And let me tell you, man, when the Callaway people, when they, that's who charged him. The Callaways charged him with treason. It's just history. History's raw. It's an open wound. And I don't think he ever got over that court-martial. And he left Boonesboro, went across the river, built that half-face shelter in Fayette County. Did you know, Russ, a lot of people don't know this. Did you know Daniel Boone was once a sheriff of Fayette County, Kentucky, of Lexington?
Yeah. I did. I doubt many folks know that.
Yeah, he was an elected sheriff of Fayette County. I'm not sure what year that was at. I suspect it was after he left, went over to Boone Station, because he ended up owning a place, you mentioned it earlier, going up towards Saint-Anne, Paris. He had a cabin up there. And
lived in outside of Maysville for a while. Went to West Virginia for a couple years.
Yeah. So he dies at 85 years old. Folklore says he died of sweet potato overdose. He got bloated. That's what we call front porch campfire story. He just got old. He's 85 years old. Look what he had. Hey, one of the greatest things about it, during the War of 1812, General Jackson, or President Jackson, I should say, down at New Orleans, the British landed down there, and Boone's out there at his son's house, and he wanted to fight in that last battle of War of 1812 down there. And remember, President Jackson, history books tell us, they called them Tennessee boys and Kentucky boys down there with them flintlocks, and they drove those British back into that Gulf that day.
Yeah.
And that's how we won America. And we kept our motherland back then because of Tennessee and Kentucky boys fighting. They said Boone called President Jackson, wanted to fight in the Battle of New Orleans down there in the War of 1812, but they told him, they said, Colonel, you fought enough wars in your day. You just stay at home. We'll do this one on our own. That's a true story.
70 years old. What is he born? 1734.
Yeah.
1814 was that battle. So yeah.
Well, yeah. And then the other thing, a lot of people don't realize, our calendar changed. See, Boone was born on November 14th on the Julian calendar, and then on our calendar that we use now, it was October 22nd. So he's got those 2 birthdays because our calendar changed.
Right.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what Alice in Alabama just said. She said fascinating too. And I see there's a couple of comments over there on the YouTube channel. The Lyndon Baxter said, "Is Boonesboro doing the Descendants event this year?" I believe Edward Baxter, the sixth great grandfather or sixth great uncle, he's listed on the Boonesboro monument. Do you know if they're doing the seed?
Hey, Russ, I don't know. I talked to my father about this today because my father's been an interpreter down at Boonesboro for many years. And of course, Boonesboro's right between me and you down on the river. But a lot of our listeners are probably not aware that we had the second worst flood in the last 100 years recently down there. And it blew out the infrastructure of the parks, the electric, the sewage. I know that didn't you and I just talk about that today? Or was that me and my father talking?
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah.
That park's not open right now, is it?
I haven't been down there. I mean, well, not since no, I haven't been down to where the Boonesboro part is, but yeah, it was completely underwater there. So
I mean, like, the famous Hall's restaurant that probably everybody in America's ate at one time in their life was literally underwater this time for days and days, wasn't it? Yeah.
I saw a guy at the bar in his kayak. So
I know. I saw that. It was in the paper. A guy's in his kayak and he's at the bar, and the kayak is level with the bar inside, isn't it?
Yeah, horrible. Yeah. So there's another question here about lots of people commenting how they're related to Daniel Boone. And we talked about that. How so many people are descended from that. From then. Where'd it go? He said, fella said that hello from North Carolina. Another person said he's watching from Beauregard Parish, Southwest Louisiana. His name is David Rugo. And he says, are you really related to him? Thomas Schindler says, here is a website for early Kentucky history books. So he's putting that in there also. So
look at this. I'm just thinking about this. Isn't that beautiful sculpture of him?
Can you move it a little more towards your face? There you go. Yeah.
Look at that.
Isn't that Fess Parker?
Yeah, Fess Parker. Hey, I'm going to show you something. This will be funny before we end. People will laugh at this because they're going to remember this. Everything in my office, Russ, is either original or like if I could show you in my living room, everything in here is 18th century. I have a lot of original swords and guns, but I bet you a bunch of your listeners don't have one of these. You ready for this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, buddy.
Look here.
You got the thermos too.
And guess what? It's not broken. I bought this off eBay as a gift to myself. This is one of the 1960 ones. I'm embarrassed to tell you what I paid for this thing because it's in mint condition. All the thermoses are usually broken, but this one's intact. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. Daniel,
you should take your lunch when you do your reenactments.
Yeah, I get a lot of customers send this stuff to me because they know it'll mean more to me. Here's a 1950 Daniel Boone comic. Look.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got tons of this stuff.
Right.
I'm surprised one of your listeners hadn't asked what my favorite all-time book is on Daniel Boone.
Well, there was a couple of comments there that did ask if you recommend any good books. And
okay, hang on, I'll show them to you. Okay.
Joe says he wants a sculpture like that. Joshua Clayton in Missouri says that those they're always missing the thermoses, but you've got the thermos.
I know. Okay, my listeners want to know what me and Stephanie paid for that for my private collection. That thing was $400, man, off eBay. They're just not out there anymore. Well, it'd been sitting up in a farm.
Wow.
Before I give you my top books on Daniel Boone, I don't endorse these authors. I'm not paid to do this. This is how I study Boone. This is my second best book, I think, on Boone. That's Farricker. This is a great book, but this is the best one. That's the life of autobiography of Daniel Boone by Professor Ted Ballou of Murray State University. You can get this off eBay probably for nothing. The autobiography by Ted Ballou. This is the Bible of Daniel Boone. It's that good. Look here. There's me and Ted Ballou back when he sold me this book.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's the author. Can I get that? Is that blurry?
Are you in the dress?
Yeah. He usually dresses as Boone would have dressed when he was living with the Indians. I can't remember when I bought this book from. Yeah, here it is. To my friend, I wish you well. You do a wonderful job portraying Daniel Boone, author Ted Ballou. To my friend Steven Caudill, 2006.
Cool.
Yeah,
So
that was the first.
when we started.
Yeah, that's the first year I started doing Boone. But that's my number one book. That'd be my number two.
Teresa says, "How do you spell Ballou?" Ballou's a common name around these parts, but
yeah, Ted Ballou is spelt. It's edited by Dr. Ted Franklin Ballou, Bellue, Bellue.
Yeah, spelled many different ways. Mary Perry Sword says, "Is there a central place to find out information about those who were with Boone at Boonesboro? I have ancestors who were with him there." That's a common thing. Like I cannot tell you the amount of people that either are related to Boone or their ancestors knew Boone and were with Boone and things like that. She's asking, do you know of a common source to find out information?
Well,
maybe your dad there at the fort.
Yeah, I mean, my dad works at the fort. He's not working there this year because Dad fell and had a catastrophic back injury. But you and I know that everybody that came through and that was at Boonesboro is on the monument out front. But as far as that being centrally located, where that is somewhere on the net, I don't know. That's a great question, isn't it?
Yeah, Linda says that there's a small book at the fort that lists the families. I own that book. I've got. Yeah, there's a really nice bookstore there at the fort that I think I own each book they sell there. But I come out of there and hundreds of dollars, in books. People are like, "What's the matter with this guy, man?" But
I'm here at my library from 1850s on up. I probably have over 100 books on Boone here in my library.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, somebody gave me this one the other day, and I haven't even had it. Look at this one. Look at that.
Oh yeah.
Let me look inside of it. People gift these to me because they know they mean more to me than they would them keeping them. No way. This is copyrighted by John Potter, 1880.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an old one, isn't it?
Yeah, usually older means more accurate, but yeah, usually awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you have to send them down to your kids. It'd be a great thing to inherit.
Well, I always tell my wife when I die, nobody, don't let people take the guns off the wall here because I mean, like sitting here. Look, hang on just a second. I mean, these are sitting in the corner of my house.
What's your address?
Yeah. But I mean, it's just the way of life for us here. The tomahawks and the original swords and Kentucky guns that I have in my house, it's just a lifestyle for me. We love this,
Absolutely, without a doubt. Dirty Bernie from Pismo Beach said that he's from Sterling Heights, Michigan, 30 minutes north of Detroit. He says that he promises no more raiding parties down to Kentucky to capture you settlers, so they enjoy the channel. So,
that's great, man. That's great.
And Lyndon Baxter says that you mentioned earlier that Boone was at Chillicothe at Blackfish's Village. I live near Chillicothe, Ohio, and I've often wondered whether Daniel had crossed my land during his travels. I actually grew up near Chillicothe also, so I think the same thing.
You know, we don't know where Blackfish is buried, Russ. I mean, you and I don't know we've ever talked about that. I don't know that we ever know where he died, where he was buried at.
And for those that don't know, Blackfish was the Shawnee chief that adopted Daniel Boone as his own son, kind of thing, and led the siege on Boonesboro. There. So.
Wanted his son Daniel to come back home with him.
Right. Yeah. That's what he screamed at him. Chautauqua, hey son, why'd you leave? Kind of thing. Couldn't understand.
He did. Yeah.
It's such a complicated time. Today we think about, man, every day you're hearing people like there's so much guilt that's out there. And I don't want to get into this. I definitely do not want to get into this. But there's so much guilt of today of how things went on. Man, it was a complicated time. It was a complicated. Boone lived his whole entire life with and around Native Americans. From what time he was a boy out on the frontier in North Carolina in the Yadkin Valley, his whole entire life he lived around Native Americans. So it was a majorly complicated time, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the thing about Boone, Russ, is they had ample opportunity to kill him. I mean, it was the warrior's path. It was dark and bloody ground. Well, here's the deal. This is history. This is not history according to Russ or Steve. This is documented history. And the British wanted our motherland. I mean, they landed here to take places like Kentucky, Virginia, and Ohio. And that was the Battle of the American Revolutionary War. And, the thing about the Native Americans, that it was their land. The white man came through, and they came through the Cumberland Gap, and they started to settle what we called the dark and bloody ground of Kentucky. It was the hunting ground of the Shawnee and the Cherokee Nation. And, the British says, look, if you'll rid these people of our land, we'll give you gunpowder and tomahawks and muskets and blankets. And I'm paraphrasing here, but you can imagine they're saying, oh, look, you're going to bring us fresh horses, blankets for the winter, muskets, tomahawk, gunpowder, and white man liquor, and all we got to do is rid the people of the American frontier. Well, they did, and so they allied with the British to rid the American people, and we fought all the way up to the War of 1812 to keep this land. And Russ, the thing about guys like me and you and your listeners tonight, and the people that are following on my page, this nation was paid for a price. There was a lot of bloodshed shed on the colonies to make this motherland a free America back then. That's why the American flag is so dear and sacred to people like me and you and our listeners. It's not just a symbol of freedom. It's a freedom of the horrific heartache and sacrifice that those people that came before us, your people and my people, that sacrificed everything to make America free.
And that's one of the biggest things that when we build people's family trees and we find the names, not the fictitious, I know my ancestors did this, the names of the men that fought and where they fought and how long they fought and the things that they did, it really makes it real to them. It makes them find a newfound sense of patriotism and a belonging, to this country.
Yeah, I mean, I like going back to what you were sort of giving me free rein there for a minute, and I can be a little preachy sometimes, so I put the brake on. But when I look back in my genealogy, Russ, even though I'm a direct Boone descendant, I had people in my family that were bootleggers. I'm talking about 150 years ago.
Surely not. Probably about 30 years ago. Probably 30 years ago, right?
But I mean, but then I found out through, I hope Sue's watching tonight, and she's one of your genealogists.
Mm-hmm.
Sue takes me to my great-great-grandfather, Shadrach Caudill's house out there in Trapp, Kentucky. And he ends up being a tongue-talking, speaking Methodist preacher. And I'm thinking, okay, well then it split another 100 years. And, you know, I'm going to go on and say it. I've almost said it 3 times in this broadcast. I drank like a fish most of my adult life, all through college, U.S. military. And I had a born again, come to Jesus moment in my life about 10 years ago, where I thought my ways just ain't working. You know, it was the world according to me. And man, I hit an old altar. I'm telling you, an old Bible thumping altar. And I heard the gospel of Jesus Christ, just like Daniel Boone did. And so on that day, I hit that altar on February the 10th of that year. I got baptized in a creek, and it was about 20 degrees. And I ain't had a drink. You know, I ain't had a drink of liquor since. I got old time religion, sobered, and chose my family and my children, and decided to be a good neighbor and a good friend to people like you and all these people watching. And so that's my story. But guess what? My story is just like yours, Russ, and everybody watching. We've all got stuff in our closet. Look at me at the Senate. I challenge U.S. senators and state senators to fully be everything that you've been created to be, and to have integrity and honor and good morals, because not everybody gets what I'm talking about. Hurt people hurt others. And
Yeah.
we live in a time right now where I believe this with all my heart, Russ. History repeats itself, and we're making full circle. And I'm going to tell you, at the very end, guys like me and you and the people that are listening to this broadcast, I read the book. I know how it ends. We win.
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Amen. Can I get an amen from anybody on that?
And you do the preaching too, like at these living history rendezvous and reenactments and things. You do often preach, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And you know, the reason I do is because people relate to me. I'm just real. Look, if you know what, in life, Russ, if you've got a drinking problem or a marital problem, or you probably don't want to go to a preacher at a church that's never been drunk, that ain't never had marital problems.
Right.
You probably need to find somebody that struggled in that avenue of their life. And so guess what? A lot of people can relate to me. You know, listen, I run hard. I mean, I put people in penitentiary for bank robbery and in some horrible crimes against humanity for 23 years. I didn't just chase taillights. I was a homicide robbery detective. And so when I got out and did this Boone thing, I think like you, Russ, I see this in you every time I'm around you. You get the big picture. We all do. We have a pre-existing destiny. Our destiny is who we are. History's repeating itself. And I just want to be one of the good guys on the team. Like I said, I read the book. I know how it ends. I'm not going to be one of the bad guys.
Sure. And before I forget too, remember to go. You got your Facebook page, Daniel Boone of Kentucky, the Daniel Boone VIP group, and check that out. Send a request in there, and you can see all the Daniel Boone stuff. Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP group. Make sure you check that out. There's tons of great stuff on there. And before I forget too, we haven't even brought this up. Very briefly. You have a store. When you go to these rendezvous and reenactments, you and your wife Stephanie have a store, and it's online store, and you sell. What do you sell?
Yeah, hang on. We just did a big online sale tonight, and I'll give you like a 30-second view real quick of what we do, and then they can go to my site, and then I'll tell them how they order. Hang on. Okay, like tonight, Russ, you know, everybody saw me with the regimental coat on a minute ago. You know, and I appreciate the opportunity, because I don't, this is how I make my living. we do a lot of movie sets. I mean, you saw the movie Turn. You saw the series on Netflix, Sleepy Hollow, Pirates of the Caribbean. We shipped a lot of stuff when they did the remake of that. We've been in Oprah Winfrey Magazine. We've been in this desk behind me here is full of magazines we've been in with our products. Like you can't get this nowhere in the United States. Like, see these epaulets? We supplied these to the movie Turn. You can buy this online tonight. If you go to Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP group, you can buy that. You can buy tonight. We featured these haversacks on sale. This is like $25. Free shipping. Here's something cool. 1733 New Testament edition of a colonial Bible. We sold probably 3 dozen of these tonight. Block print scarves that people wear, you know, as a modesty cloth. We sell hundreds of these. That's block prints, historically correct. The eyewear that I'm wearing, these here, we sell these for $25 online tonight, free shipping, and they're colonial. You can't get them anywhere in the country. We own the company. So these movie sets, not like they used to, Russ. Back in the old days, man, when we first started this, we were booming, sending stuff to like MGM Studio, like out in Los Angeles and stuff like that. But, you know, the music or the movie industry is just not making a lot of that historical stuff like they used to. It's all fantasy now, you know. How
do they find you? Like if a person wants to order some of the stuff that you sell, you know, shoes, jackets, all that kind of stuff, how do they find you?
Well, they go to Daniel Boone VIP group, and you say, well, where's your website? Well, we don't do a website. That's why you can order this stuff for pennies on the dollar, because we own the product. You send me a friend request, Daniel Boone VIP group. And before I did your live broadcast tonight, we were on live, and I was sitting here showing you what I have, and say like, okay, you want to buy a set of these epaulets off the movie set Turn for your regimental coat. These were, I think these are normally like $50 a piece. So we sold these 2 for $40 tonight, and then we'll put up a phone number on our live feed. It says, hey, if you want to order something tonight, text my wife Stephanie at 859-749-7511. And she said we had like 85 orders tonight.
Sure.
It's crazy. But we sell stuff you ain't going to get on Amazon. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely, and you post things on there often, you know, like
like every day, day. For like, so here's what I really wanted to achieve tonight. Well, I wanted to meet all your people, and we've invited all our people to go to your site. We are very selective who we let in the VIP group. But like I told you before the broadcast started, your kind of people are like-minded people to us, and they're safe. We don't want a lot of nonsense. We're a family-run business, so we don't want all the spam and stuff to get in on our feed. So we invite you in, and we were going to do a big, it's sort of like a spring new customer list. We're going to open it up where if you send a friend request, I can see they came from your website, you know, familytree.nut. And that way we'll accept them, you know. But I just don't I was telling you this the other day, Russ, I probably get 35, 40 friend requests a night or a day when I get up in the morning, drink coffee, and only like 2 of them get in. Because all the spam, we're not going to sell t-shirts on this site. We're not selling sunglasses and that kind of nonsense, you know. Right. But everybody, here's what happens. Everybody wants to cash in on another guy's success, and they want to ride our shirt tail, and I'm not going to do that. Because me and we're all about history, and we're not playing a game here. This is serious stuff.
Right. And Teresa said, can we put the link up? We'll put the link to the page there in the comments here, you know, when we're done.
Yeah. Can your producer, Jordan, that's on the other end that does all the graphics here, hey, Jordan, can you post a link to all of our customers here to join Daniel Boone of Kentucky and make it easier, wouldn't it, Russ?
Yeah. Yeah, we can put that in there. Absolutely. And Bernie says Russ is drinking clear liquid in a mason jar with no ice. He hopes it's water. It's definitely water. It's that you think that was cool when we started. You think I sat here and drank Kentucky White Lightning like that? I'd be on the floor. So I drink about a gallon of water a day. So
I don't ever think I've ever asked you this. You're sober, aren't you, Russ? Other than occasional beer or something, maybe?
Oh, yeah. My dad's watching, man. I can't. My dad's a pastor. I can't tell you that right now.
I've never. Well, I'll tell you. What's your dad's name? Is he watching right now?
His dad. I'm Junior. So,
hey, Mr. Carson, I've been around your son on some hot summer days making films. I've never seen him smoke or drink or cuss. Is that good? Right.
There you go. Yeah. Good Christian boy, absolutely. But so you've done. We got one more clip I was wanting to show. We did. You branching out and helping folks out in your community and stuff. There was a political candidate that you endorsed there a little while. I think she was watching there. But can we show that clip, Jordan? Jada's clip.
Hey, Jordan, roll that real quick, and I'm going to go get me a cup of tea while you're showing it. That's a good clip. Roll that real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay. Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, you're Jada Brady.
You're Daniel Boone.
I've been hearing a lot about you. What a great honor to meet you. You have filed as a write-in candidate, historically speaking, I'm hearing, for the largest write-in campaign for the 73rd District for Clark and Madison County for the State House of Representatives.
That's correct. And thank you so much for saying that.
Well, I've been hearing a lot about you. A lot of people are talking. I've got a few minutes. If you've got some time, I'd like to walk and talk to you more.
That would be such an honor.
Yeah, that was really cool. That was
wow.
Field of Dreams right there. She's looking off on the Kentucky River thinking about the campaign and who comes out of the mist. Colonel Daniel Boone himself.
Hey, Russ, because I've chose not to see everything what's coming up tonight. Have we had a bunch of people following tonight?
I don't know. I haven't looked. We've had hundreds of people watching tonight, so I haven't been able to check those stuff. Mary said she just joined. Appreciate that. It's called the Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP group. She said, but
yeah, that's all. Everybody's not really technical savvy. All you do is go up in the top of your phone where it says search and type in Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP group, and I'll have to accept it. When I get off here tonight, I hope I have a bunch. Yeah,
Mary says there's about 38. Well, that's on Facebook. We also are on. This is going live on YouTube, and it's going live on your VIP group too. So a lot of people watching. Teresa says that was the best political commercial that she's ever seen. So there's a lot more out there. There's a lot more than just that little clip.
I don't know, Teresa, but let me explain real quick. I'm not going to speak for Russ. He can add what he wants to, but I'll speak for myself. That young lady came to my house, to mine and Stephanie's home one night, and she's in her 30s. Her name's Jada Brady. Her dad had a liver transplant over at the University of Kentucky. Her father and I really didn't know each other, but he had called me to his transplant unit to pray with him after a transplant. I mean, that's my life. That's the way it goes. And she said she wanted to run for political office as a state house of representative. And I thought, Russ, I've raised 2 kids, 2 daughters. I've got a son that's a Kentucky state trooper in Richmond, where you live. And I thought, man, I'd love to see a guy my age get behind one of my 2 daughters that had political ambition. And we endorsed her. And listen, she gave them a run for the money. She was a write-in candidate at the last minute. And what was the numbers, Russ? It was like she got like over 3,000 write-in votes. I mean, she did really, yeah.
She got what 20% of the vote or something like that.
She did really, really well.
Yeah, really well. Really well. Most people are expecting. So she ain't done. So
no, she's not done. You need to watch that girl. She's got she's got a political career because her heart's right. She's
Right.
she's a super nice kid, really nice
Genuine.
kid.
Jada said 15% of the vote, 15%. But
is Jada still watching this at 10:20
yeah, she's still on there. Yeah, she's still there.
Hey, Jada, she can hear me then, can't she?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I want to see you run for county judge executive for Clark County. I think she could be our next county judge as a Republican. I really do. I believe in her. I do.
Yeah,
I believe in us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell you something. I know her husband, Chris Christie. I've been a master mason for 35 years, and me and her husband, we sit and lodge together. And you'll never meet a better guy than her husband. Just super wonderful people. And I mean, I look at it as, guys like me and you, Russ, we got a lot of life experiences. A lot of things that we wouldn't talk about here that we've done around the world for people. But I'll tell you what, man, when Jada and Chris Christie came into my life, it was like an honor. I can't say enough about them. They didn't want nothing from me. They just wanted me to say she thought that she could be a good candidate. She never asked me to do nothing for her. I'm the one that got behind her because I know everybody, And she flat gave them a run for their money.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I believe in democracy, and I believe in the freedom of America. I love the men and women that's died for this country for me to be free. I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I believe in being a good husband and a good father to my kids and a good neighbor to people like you, Russ. And hell, I'm a minority in this country now.
Well, you're just a quiet minority, So I think it might be still in the majority. But anyway, we're not going to get into politics too much here. But I know we're on the same team. But what's next? What's next for you? I know it's been a ridiculous bad year as far as reenacting and festivals and things like that go. The past year, we've used it as an opportunity to build the brand of what we're doing here. We've always saw opportunity in adversity, but I know that this is upcoming year. You've already had one big show down in Florida that happened, but what's coming this year?
I don't know. Some of the bigger shows that I do in the nation, when I say big show, Russ, like Florida, Alafai River Rendezvous is down in Homeland. I missed Fort Frederick, Maryland, because any of these big events we do that are at a state or national park, they're not going to open up right now. I mean, our governor here in Kentucky just said that they were going to open it up to 1,000 people gathering. Well, that's not good for me. I need to be successful. I need to do an event at Fort Frederick, Maryland, where there's 12,000 people there. So I don't know right now, but what I do know is this. I think it's coming back. And I think that history has a place, always has been and always will be. And I think that it's going to come back differently. It's going to be more serious and more intent, like what we've done. I think American frontier history is different. I don't want to get into a war here, but if I'd been on this broadcast, say 3 or 4 years ago, when you said, "Hey, Steve, Civil War is getting ready to come to an end. We're not going to be able to do it anymore," I would have said, "Where are you coming up with that at?" But look what happened. You know what I mean? I don't know. We live in a different world now, and you cannot erase history. It's what it is. It will repeat itself. And we are going to be who our ancestors were, whether we like it or not. That's who we are genetically, and DNA and genealogy tells us that there's a pattern of history of who our people is in America. It's just the way it is. You can't make that go away, Russ. I can't change who you are.
I don't want to change.
No,
I'm
no,
proud
sir.
of my ancestors.
No, I am too. I mean, geez. I mean, look, I come right out of the Boone family. I'm grateful and thankful of the values and the things that were bestilled in me. I've had a great life. You know, it's not like I'm dying or anything here, but I thought I was going to die last week. Took that Madura shot, Russ. I had a hard time with it.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of these history shows I went to, I just don't think if it's a state park or a national park, they're going to open it up to history gatherings. Not right now.
But when it happens and when they finally do open it up, it's going to be explosive, you know, kind of thing. So now's the time to lay the groundwork to let people know about it.
I disagreed with you maybe a year ago, but I think we were all in panic mode back then because nobody knew nothing. And I think when it comes back for that's a good way of saying this. For people like me and you that have survived and that has stayed focused, and we were able to, I mean, we have to say this, maybe we financially made some right decisions where we weren't devastated by the economy. Now, don't get me wrong. We were hurting. We suffered like everybody. It hadn't been a cakewalk. But I think for us that hung in there, I agree with you. It's going to come back big, real big. And I think that's why you and I keep partnering on stuff. I think the future for you and I, your company and mine, I think that you and I haven't even scratched the possibilities of what we can do together to promote history. You wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you and I have talked about this. I look forward to, we're going to hit the road, you know, for a few weeks at a time. And we've got a big project that you and I have talked about. We've got to put it in the works, where we go together and, you know, in your words, you know, and you tell the story where we're going to go to Pennsylvania, you know, we're going to go to Maryland, Virginia, Florida, North Carolina, Missouri, Ohio, Indiana, all these places Boone was. And I'm going to interview you to talk about Boone, you know, from your words, you know, kind of thing.
If we don't do it, Russ, who is going to do it?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not teaching this in school.
Right.
They're not going to teach American frontier history. There's nobody knows what we just talked about tonight. We just scratched the surface tonight about who Boone really was and not who we think he was.
Right.
I mean, I hate to disappoint everybody tonight, but he was a devout man of God. He was a great husband. He was married one time. He had 10 kids. 2 of them were killed by Indians, had 63 grandkids, dies at 85 years old. He lived a typical life, but man, he went through a lot of sacrifices. Good God, I don't think we have a clue, do we?
No. But is there anything else you'd like to chat about this evening?
No, man. Listen, we've stayed on here for over an hour, so I hope everybody that stayed with us, you've enjoyed it. On behalf of the Daniel Boone of Kentucky VIP Group Corporation, my wife Stephanie has been here all night taking orders. Russ, I think you're a good guy, a good friend. We're going to get to know each other better in the future. I want to thank you inviting our listeners in with you and yours with mine. I think it was a good partnership tonight. I mean, we literally brought 10,000 people on each side together tonight, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to, we'd love to have you on again. If you would, we'll bring you on to talk about some specific subjects about Daniel Boone himself.
Yeah. I really appreciate the opportunity. I think the most moving thing for me tonight was that video of me talking there in the Senate floor. I hadn't watched that in a long time. That hit me hard. But maybe it's just the time we're living in, but I don't know. It humbled me, man. It was hard for me to look back up, but that was a real blessing to watch that with you and all your listeners. I don't think probably that many people's ever seen that.
Yeah.
You know?
That's really, really cool. I don't know how many other people have done that. So,
well, I know. And I mean, you know, like I told you earlier, I had the opportunity to talk about anything. I could have come in there joking around and tried to make people laugh, but that was flat serious. She said, that state house representative said, well, you got to come and speak because we had Turtle Man and everything. I'm like,
Yeah, so, but
Yeah, man. Well, man, I'm gonna
Yeah.
get off here, man, and I'm gonna chill out, watch some net. Well, no, it's got late. I don't even think I'm gonna watch the news tonight, but I'm just gonna.
When the show ends, if I forget to tell everybody, hang in here for just a second for a quick discussion at the end of the show once we sign off. But there's a couple more comments on there. Thomas says, is there a website to look at his ancestry? Well, if you go to familytreenuts.org, reach out to us right there. We have a team of genealogists here that can definitely help you with that stuff. And Lyndon Baxter says that Russ and you and Daniel come up to Chillicothe, and I can put you on the site of the Shawnee camp around the 1845 era. So that would be pretty cool. So
hey, ask her real quick if you're listening. If she's still listening, I walked that battlefield up there. Is that where the monument is to George Rogers Clark, where they have the the fair at New Boston there in Springfield, Ohio? Because I walked that battlefield up there, Russ. Is that
I don't know. Hopefully they'll respond here in the comments. We'll be able to catch it here once we get off here. But yeah, make sure if you don't already, you've got a YouTube channel too. But for your hiking, you can check that out. Daniel Boone of Kentucky, and if you're watching, don't know about us, we've got a YouTube channel, Family Tree Nuts. We've got we got over 300 videos on there, many of them with Colonel Daniel Boone on there. So make sure you subscribe to that too. So. But
man, I appreciate you, Russ. I think we had a big bunch of viewers tonight. I'm honored, man. There's a lot of other people out there that's like-minded like me and you that want to talk about this stuff all night. Because I couldn't you?
We could do it every day, all day. So,
I think what we'll do for a future broadcast, now that I've been introduced to your people,
what do you mean?
We'll do a show one night where we talk Pacific about when Boone got captured and what all happened.
That'd be a great one. Be a great one. We'll do that soon.
Because you like that story too, when Blackfish captures him and when he gets taken back up to Chillicothe. It's a great story.
No doubt. He's quite the marathon runner too after that. So
man. One last thing, in my heart, I was going to talk to Jordan about this at another day, not tonight. It's got late, but man, I do an incredible presentation in church, where I talk about Boone's faith and challenge people, sort of like what I did there at the Senate, and maybe right now that church is opening back up, I'd like to maybe get into some churches and start doing that avenue again. I've been thinking about that,
Yeah.
If I'm not going to get the outdoor, I'm not going to, if God brought us to it, he'll bring us through it. But I'd like to take that opportunity to start looking at some new venues to speak at, because right now mass gatherings, at least through this summer, aren't going to happen right now, are they? So
right.
I don't know.
Depends on the state, I guess. So
when I get up here, you want me to stay on, but they won't see the broadcast anymore, right?
Right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Okay. Do a little outro. But anyway, I guess we'll sign off for now. Thank you so much, Colonel Daniel Boone, Steven Caudill, to being with us tonight. It's been awesome. Look forward to having you on here again. I know there's a lot of people that enjoyed it as well. So we'll sign off.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. We'll sign off for now. Remember, Family Tree Nuts.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you.
Let
Russ.
our nuts find nuts in your family tree.
At Family Tree Nuts, we make professional, historic videos all over the country and currently have videos in 25 states and even a few international. Let's face it, nobody wants to read anymore. As a matter of fact, nobody wants to even watch long videos, which is why I'm going to keep this real quick. Moving into the future, how are we going to educate the public on all the historic treasures that are found in every community? We have found the answer. Short, entertaining, and to-the-point videos with lots of shots and views that are relevant to the subject. These videos are shared on social media and are the fastest and least expensive way to educate the community on the history of your area. We have experience working with historical organizations as well as city or county tourism departments and Chamber of Commerce's to produce these videos for their use. Our clients are provided with copies of any video produced as well as online links to the videos that they can easily add to their websites. Let us document and produce videos of just a few or all the historic sites in your area. You will find our rates extremely affordable and well below the industry standard for media production. We are passionate about preserving and documenting as many historical sites as we can, and we would love to work with you. For more information, contact me directly at russ@familytreenuts.org or my personal phone at 859-314-1976. And remember, Family Tree Nuts, let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.